right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking our time sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World today. With that, viewers, we're shifting our focus to more news coming in. Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te has now issued a statement rejecting China's one country, two systems plan and has vowed to uphold Taiwan's freedom, democracy and right to self-defense. This was done while attending a ceremony for the commissioning of Taiwan's first M1A280 Abrams tanks. Now, speaking at a military base in Hukou, he stressed that Taiwan maintains the status quo with dignity and resolve. He's further stated that any forceful unification and aggression would be firmly opposed by Taiwan. Lai has asserted that Taiwan's sovereignty can only be decided by the Taiwanese people and not China. This has come after China declared that it does not rule out the use of force taking over Taiwan. Lai has also pledged, meanwhile, to increase military spending to 5% of the country's GDP by 2030 in order to strengthen its defenses. With us on the broadcast is Hidekazu Sakai, Associate Professor of Kansai Gaidai University in Japan, joining us from Tokyo. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Of course, all eyes were on the Donald Trump-Xi Jinping meeting yesterday, but we've been seeing over the last couple of days Taiwanese leaders express apprehensions as well as to what exactly will be discussed. Would this be raked up? And also reaffirming their support for the United States of America. Considering the posture that China has adopted in the South China Sea, especially with regards to Taiwan and numerous of its fighter jets and its ships crossing the median line as well in recent times. Where do you see this headed? There are some experts who say that China is preparing to invade Taiwan. Do you think this is possible in the near future?
Well, this is always unclear issue. Taiwan has been center of the China's national interest for many, many years, since its foundation in 1949. Therefore, Taiwan issue is always biggest issues for both the United States and China. And I'd like to point it out also, this is a huge issue to Japan as well. Therefore, I think everybody, including Japan, have been sort of paying attention if China and the United States talk about Taiwan at this point, but they did not. Doesn't mean the United States abandoned Taiwan or China gave up Taiwan. Taiwan is right there always. Therefore, I think Taiwan wanted to send a clear message that we are here and don't forget us. And this is Taiwan's the status quo that we do not want unification with China, but we don't want to have a war either. So they want to maintain a middle ground that they want to continue as before. So this is a very touchy and very sensitive, but nobody wants war, actually, that's for sure. China doesn't want a war either. Therefore, this is something sort of an adjustment. That's my understanding.
Indeed, so I request you to stay on with us as we're tracking some other very critical developments. We're now learning that South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has held his first summit with newly elected Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takeichi on the sidelines of the APEC leaders' meeting. The 41-minute talk between the leaders focused on strengthening cooperation between the two nations while keeping sensitive historical disputes at bay. South Korean leader Lee Jae-myung stressed on the importance of collaboration on both domestic and international issues. Meanwhile, Takeichi has described the countries as neighboring friendly countries that are important to each other and has hoped for closer cooperation. Both leaders agreed to maintain dialogue and have planned another meeting to further the talks. The summit signals a potential shift towards smoother Japan-South Korea relations. However, the future, of course, depends on the handling of historical issues sensitive to both sides. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Hidekazu Sakai. We're seeing that Japan and South Korea, both countries, yes, they have their historical sensibilities that they have to account for, but in the present scenario, there is a geopolitical reality of tensions simmering between Washington and Beijing. South Korea and Japan both are allies of the United States of America, but cannot ignore their geopolitical reality, the geographic proximity to China. How do you think then both countries are sort of balancing this in today's geopolitically charged atmosphere?
Okay. In order to understand South Korea's political stance changes, is that its own geopolitical position of South Korea. For South Korea, China is always right there, and they have a long history. They were subjugated to the China for a long time. But at the same time, Korea has a fresh memory of being colonized by Japan about a couple of decades in the 20th century. Therefore, for the South Korea, China and Japan are sort of eternal sort of threat, but at the same time, they have to deal with it. So this is their political first issues. And at this point, South Korea and China relationship has been, I would say, very unfavorable to South Korea in terms of trade relations and strategic position as well. And Japan always have wanted to work with South Korea, but we have so many issues like I don't know, Takeshima, and also comfort movement issues and other things. We had so many historical issues, and Japan thought we apologize, but South Korea doesn't think that Japan's apologize. So they have always sort of kind of what do you call it? They never really agreed what they have done, but this time. Lee government doesn't have a choice that they have to work with Japan because, as I said, South Korea's relationship with China has been worsened. And also, I'm sure that South Korea has been pressured by the United States that, South Korea needs to work with Japan. Otherwise, the United States cannot help you. So I'm sure that the United States pressures were right there. So I believe at this point, South Korea, Japan, and the U.S., this trilateral relations has been kind of getting better. And I'm sure that China doesn't like this sort of containment of China. So these are a kind of sequential schedule of Takaichi's summit meeting today with China and yesterday with South Korea was not a coincidence, but it was a plan. Therefore, South Korea and Japan and the United States have been kind of making agreement that we should work together to balance against China.
Indeed, you've referred to the meeting that is going to take place between Xi Jinping and Takaichi today itself. What are your expectations from this meeting?
Well, China has been very cautious about Takaichi's emergence as a prime minister. I'm sure that they have a lot of homework on her, and that they so cautious because the Takaichi has been protege of late Prime Minister Abe. And I remember that when Abe became prime minister, China was so cautious, and even Xi Jinping didn't smile when he met Abe for the first time. And then, but then, interestingly, China and Japan relations became very good. And so, yes, China has viewed Takaichi as a hardliner, but doesn't mean China-Japan relationship will be worsened. Maybe China realized that it needs to be careful to work with Japan, and therefore, in this case, Japan can, sort of become more vocal about a lot of problem with China that they can negotiate. Otherwise, Japan and China, their relations will just keep getting worsened. But I think Xi Jinping's and Takaichi Sanai's meeting will be successful.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World today. With that, viewers, we're shifting our focus to what's taking place in Indonesia. Indonesia is still weighing its options on buying China's J-10 fighter jets. Jakarta's defense ministry says that the plan is still under review and no final decision has been made yet. Officials say that they are analyzing all available platforms to strengthen Indonesia's air defense and protect its sovereignty. Earlier this month, reports quoted Defense Minister Jeffrey Jamsuddin stating that the J-10s will be flying in Jakarta shortly. But he later clarified that the final call lies with President Prabowo Subianto, who's not yet made a decision. Experts say that the Chinese J-10s are cheaper than Western models but could complicate Indonesia's military operations and interoperability with other forces. The J-10, developed by Chengdu Aircraft Corporation, is China's 4.5 generation fighter jet and one of its key defense exports. More news coming in. China's Manned Space Agency has stated that the Shenzhou-21 crewed spaceship is scheduled to be launched later today from the Hukou Satellite Launch Center. The spokesperson for CMSA noted that this mission marks the 6th crewed flight during the application and development phase of China's space station and the 37th flight mission of the country's manned space program. The main objectives of the mission are to complete an in-orbit crew rotation with the Shenzhou-20 crew, stay aboard the space station for about 6 months and carry out space science and application tasks. This will be the first time China conducts an in-orbit space experiment involving rodent mammals. 4 mice, 2 male and 2 female, will travel with the spacecraft and be raised in orbit. The experiment aims to study how microgravity and confined space environment affect mice behavior patterns. The Shenzhou-21 crew consists of 3 astronauts representing different specializations: pilot, a fighter engineer, and a payload specialist. Zhang Liu, the spacecraft pilot, is the mission commander and will be returning to space after 2 years. Wu Fei and Zhang Hongzhang will be on their maiden space flight, with Wu Fei said to become the youngest Chinese astronaut to participate in a space mission to date. That's a wrap on the China Report. More news and updates